Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on July 18th, 2021 at approximately 4:37 p.m. PST. Well, I was really unhappy this morning when I started things out. Well, depending on how you look at it. Not quite certain which order it happened in. But I am happy to acknowledge that after several months of working at it, I am now at my lightest weight in 10 years. Again, this was a small goal for me, but very important. I found when I got to that weight, checked my blood pressure and found out it's a little higher than I'd like, but it is well inside the functional range. So I'm quite content on that one. Okay, now the bad news was my coffee urn, the one that I've had for the last 5 years. It ran for 15 years, 15, maybe 20 years solid for my dad. Got turned over to me and ran for 5 years solid for me. Well, that 30-cup urn has now gone the way of the dodo bird. So now I've got to go out and find a new one. Because, well, now I'm out of coffee, which is, well, I got lots of coffee, I got no word. That's unfortunate in my eyes. However, with the temperature in here right now, drinking water is not a bad idea. And yeah, I'm still doing that neat little thing of multiple things at the same time, and so be it. Okay. Again, it really boils down to picking what works for you, find out what you're not content with in your own life, and make the modifications necessary. The thing is, if you eliminate all the negative energy, if you redirect it so it's no longer focusing on the negative side of it, what you'll find is not only can you become more effective, you'll think more clearly, your stress level will collapse, your blood pressure drops, your sugar levels come back online, or at least they work towards. Now again, diet is extremely important in getting all of this to happen. Diet, exercise. The reality is if you're feeling good, there's no problem. Okay, most of the time. Now, I still do recommend keeping an eye on it. If you don't have the wherewithal, talk to an actual licensed doctor. Now, the one thing I caution everybody against is using Google as a medical professional. Way too many variables. Now, do I trust doctors personally outright? No. I double check everything I'm told and take what I desire and leave the rest. The neat part there is it makes it easy for me to function, not necessarily for them. And I do feel for them, but that's the way it is. Okay, because I'm not one to sit back and say, okay, just because somebody tells me it works, that it works. And this is why I say, don't just take my word for it. Don't just assume because I say it works that it will. Check your own facts. Okay. I just talk about the things that I personally do. Okay, so how about a thumbs up? And do subscribe to our channel. One of the biggest goals that I've got right now where it comes to the video is to get a simple message out to everybody on the planet. Okay, and this is the whole reason I returned here at all, is to pass on this message that everybody working together can help to make this a much better, much more enjoyable, prosperous world. Okay, now there will always be the exceptions in all likelihood. Okay, this particular, reality works that way. But if you take a look at where the way the energy in your house is working, and you eliminate the things that you're not content with, what you'll find happen is all you'll have left in your life is the things you are content with. Now, hopefully that didn't do anything strange. I don't know how things work. So if you all of a sudden ended up with a blank spreadsheet in front of the screen, that's because I opened the screen up. I opened up a spreadsheet and it popped up right in front of my face. So I don't know if that had any bearing, and I won't know until we get back into looking at it, if I ever go back and watch. The reality is I don't actually watch my own videos. Okay, these are live recordings. Meaning, when I am done with them, I double check, make sure I got the date right, and then post it as is, with all the glitches, all the hiccups, all the stumbles. I just go back, I just go and post it as is. For me, it works like a charm, primarily because I have no interest in editing it. I figure I am who I am. So if you run into me in person, you'll find I talk the same way. I double back on myself. And what I mean by that is I may say, well, I can't do that. And I'll stop myself and go, well, actually, I really could do that. I'm just not interested. Or it's not a good idea, so I'm not going to. Okay, I do the same thing in a live conversation. And yes, I'm going through a staggering amount of water right now, but that's okay. Like I said, this was one of the neat little things that I found where I actually managed to drop my weight lower than it's been in 10 years. Blood pressure is running fine. Now I just have to double check and see if I've got my waistline down. But I'll do that after I get done here. Okay, I'll figure that out myself. That's the easy part. But if you take the energy in your house and you rearrange it so that you get all the negative stuff out of the way and you reorganize it, what'll happen with that is you'll find that your energy level goes up, your stress level goes down, and you'll be far more adept at coping with what other people are doing when you run into them outside of your house, or even when you run into them inside your own house. And this is why I say we eliminate the negatives, you minimize the negative issues, you maximize the positive, and what you're left with is a really relaxed, really well-running house. Okay? And you will find other things happen. You'll find it easier to discard things you no longer desire to have. Okay, and if you've got kids, changing the way your life is working will encourage them to do the same thing. Because let's not forget that virtually everybody, learns by watching other people. Sometimes by seeing what they did and deciding they're not going to do that. Sometimes by watching what they did and going, that's exactly the path I want to go on. Okay, so if you're looking at any sort of a goal, any sort of a dream at all, within functional reason, like if your dream is to fly without wings or without some sort of aerial conveyance, my guess is you're going to run into a little bit of a problem. This does not mean you shouldn't make the effort. But there's a very simple way of looking at it. When your heart and your head are in conflict, follow your heart, but use your head to get there. Okay, as long as you follow that line of reasoning, you'll find you have a lot better success. Okay, because the reality is that the head is used to decipher a way to make your dreams happen. And it doesn't matter, as far as I'm concerned, take the biggest dream you've got. In my case, I desire to become an author, which reminds me I should get to that tonight. Hopefully, because I've got a show going on tonight. From 7 to 10, I'll be on Forest Moon Paranormal on the computer. I believe it's on Spreaker, but take a look at it on, look for it on the, look for it on the computer. Forest Moon Paranormal, S4. Okay, I'll be on that tonight along with a lot of other people from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific time. Okay, I do not know what the discussion is going to be. I never do. I'm just not told. That's a different show than the normal one because the first Friday of every month, I turn around and I'm on Spaced Out Radio at spacedoutradio.com from 9 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And on that one, we discuss the Offworlders. Now, again, and this is the two things I've got to get to tonight, I think. One, we'll be doing a little bit more on my webpage, on my Facebook page on Yldrbac, about the way that the story is evolving and how it is coming about. Okay, because that is the other big goal that I've got. See, I'm working on getting my health in order, getting this message out to the world, getting the Yldrbac Chronicles completed. Okay, and in time, getting my other half up here so that I can actually get together with her and actually marry her. That is still very much the plan at this point. Okay. Well, health is coming along nice. I'm now down further, and I'm the lightest I've been in over 10 years. And that is even, I cannot tell you, I'm not going to tell you what all was going on then, but I can tell you I was quite happy then. At this point, apparently things are going nicely because my weight's down, my blood pressure's down where I belong. This journey that I am recording, this video journey that I'm recording, is working out nicely. Okay, we are getting it dealt with, and I am managing to get usually at least one video a day out. Okay, I've got a couple more that I'm going to see if I can get done today, but I've got some other writing I've got to get done as well. But the two big ones as far as the other writing goes is I've got to do a little bit of an update on my Facebook page for the Yldrbac. Okay, I've got to get that done. I've got to get a little bit more editing done. Much more importantly, I've got to get my head on straight. That ought to be a neat trick. Yeah, needless to say, I'm going through a lot of water right now. I wasn't planning on it, but that's the way today is going. Okay, but the reality is that working together, if all people in existence work together to take care of their own little part of the world and redirect the negative energy, you minimize the negative stuff, you maximize the positive. By doing that, you will manage to get your life running properly. Now, if you run a business, and it's just a suggestion, I mean, yes, I own my own business. That would be Inner Voice Enterprises. Okay, I do run my own business, but I don't have employees. I simply have me. Okay, and because I simply have me, okay, much as I'm going to tell you, this works like an absolute charm. Take a look if you've got employees and you've got a public outlet, like restaurants are the obvious issue. Okay, if you've got a company that is not a restaurant, it still applies the same way. If you've got a problem with an employee, take them quietly into the back, explain what the problem is, and deal with it as quickly and efficiently as possible, and put them back to work. If you've got something positive you desire to tell them right in front of everybody else, customers and all. Okay, I will tell you, I've seen it done in some restaurants, in some businesses, and the difference in the way people and that the employee behaves is rather bizarre in a very positive fashion. But it's a way of really bolstering the feelings, the atmosphere in the business. It will also help foster goodwill from the customers. Now, you don't have to believe me. Okay, give it a shot yourself. See what happens. See what you come up with. Okay, don't just take my word for it. Okay, but if you haven't tried it before, if you haven't experienced it, give it a shot. See what happens if you minimize the negative, you maximize the positive. Now, there are a number of ways of motivating staff that do not include giving them a flat increase in a wage. Now, I will tell you, just to put things together on a straight base there, if you've got a company and let's say you have a standard practice of I'm not giving you a raise, understand, okay, if the cost of living, if the average cost of living goes up by 3%, if you're not giving your employees a 3% raise, you're giving them a pay cut because the purchasing power of their wage will no longer buy what it could. Now, that may not seem like much, but if you don't give them a raise for 2.5%, if you don't give them a raise for 4 years in a row, okay, you're actually giving them a pay cut of about 10%. In all fairness, it's probably more than that, but 10% works. 2.5% per 4 years. I don't know the exact formula at this point, but I do know that if you want to hang on to your employees, then it would be advisable to pay them so they can afford to live where you're working on what you're giving them. This does not include tips. You never include tips in the wage you're paying somebody. Okay, it just doesn't work well. If you desire to keep the employees, pay them a wage they can live on. Let the tips be a bonus. That's first and foremost. If you're running a charity, okay, now I know there is an overhead, there's a cost of overhead. And personally, much as charities are a good thing, and I do agree wholeheartedly with, with charity work, with helping people out. Personally, where it comes to licensed charities, the reason I don't personally give to them is this. The percentage overhead of the administration costs eats, from my understanding, a massive amount of that charity dollar. Okay. I've seen it take as much as 90% of every dollar get sunk into administration. Okay, the best one I saw took 30%. Now, that still to me is an exorbitant waste. Okay, if I'm going to give charity, which I do, okay, but I give it directly to the people that I'm running into. And the reason for that is, if I give $10 to somebody as a charity piece, that $10 is going, that whole $10 goes to that person. There is no tax write-off for it. There is no benefit to me except for I helped somebody else. And I strongly encourage those of you that have extra money, that have extra ability, to share and take care of the people that don't have it. Now, yes, there are some people that will sit there and go, oh, I'm so broke and I've got no money and I'm living on the street and I'm living in a hovel because nobody will do anything. Yes, there are people that will play that game. Trust your instincts. Find out if you aren't certain what they're up to. Ask them why they're in that boat. Okay, and trust your instincts. Okay, I remember telling one person, because he told me, like, he was on the street, and he told me that he had enough money to keep a roof over his head, but nothing extra. And when I asked him, I said, well, have you considered walking across the street and getting a job at McDonald's? Because I know McDonald's will work, at the time, I knew McDonald's would work the schedule around another job in order for you to work part-time for them. At this point, I don't know. Okay, but at the time, it was a very definitive fact. And the guy looks at me and he goes, well, I'm not going to work at McDonald's. I looked at him and I says, you're not hungry enough. Okay, because the reality is, if you're asking for help, okay, then you can't exactly complain too terribly much. Okay, I had one person, they were complaining they were hungry, so I was going to go and buy them, I was going to buy them a sub for lunch. Well, no, that's okay, I just want money, which told me right there they weren't that hungry. They wanted money for drugs or alcohol. But the important factor to me was they were lying about it. Okay, and yes, I will say they were lying about it, because I actually found out much later that the individual in question it wasn't a question of money, he was a very severe drug addict, which I do feel for him. The reality is, for me, I will help people when they're being honest. Okay, there was one gentleman that I was dealing with, and he actually told me he had a roof over his head, he had food in the house, and he had been in Alcoholics Anonymous. He'd gone through the program 4 times and was scheduled to go back in a couple of days. And he turned around, he says, I'm telling you, if you give me any money, I'm going to go and buy a bottle. Now, that person I gave money to, and the reason was this. They were being honest with me, and they had done everything that they could reasonably do to beat the monkey in the first place. They weren't giving up, right? And since they were being honest, I had no problem dealing with them. Now, I'll be right back. Just give me half a moment. Now, yeah, I lean forward like that because my eyes still don't work as well as I'd like them to. But they are coming, and I did find a neat little piece of information that, if I understand it correctly, I should be able to completely repair my eyes at this point. My hearing I've already done a staggering job with. But the reality is I found a way, and in all fairness, I didn't find it. I just simply stumbled across an idea that somebody else had to repair eyesight with. Now, I knew when I started listening to it that they were going to boil down to buy this product to help. And I looked at it and went, yeah, I can do that, but why would I when you just gave me the key? Okay. Now, technically, I can go to them and I can go, okay, they've got this medication, this pill that I can take, and it will help. And theoretically, it will. However, it's a mindset thing in my eyes. Okay. I know full well that the mind remembers how to run the eyes. So I'm starting to work on it at this point to carry it further. I just needed to find what I was looking for. I needed to find that key that I couldn't quite identify. I've now found it, thanks to the research of some other very well seated scientists. Now, the reason I call myself a spiritual guide is this. It doesn't matter to me what church, what temple, what belief structure you operate under. Okay, what matters to me is whether you follow the 3 karmic laws. And take a look at your own guidelines. Okay, and compare them to these 3. Okay, and the three karmic laws that I live by are: be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Energy out, energy in. Take a look at the guidelines you run by. Whether you're Christian and you're looking at the 10 Commandments, or a member of the Church of Satan and you're working at the 11, I think they're the 11 guidelines. Okay, and there's a whole bunch of other religions and what have you. Take a look at the list that you operate with. Okay, and compare them to those 3. Be true to yourself. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. And energy out, energy in. If you find one that does not fit in those 3, absolutely do me a favor and drop a line at one of the contact points below and let me know. Because I'm looking for those ones that fall outside. Right now, the 3 laws that I know of are they seem to cover every type of belief structure. Okay, now each one of those laws is equally important. It's kind of like the 3 legs on a 3-legged stool. If one falls short, it'll fall over the whole thing. It'll be off center. Okay, they're all equally necessary to keep your life on an even plateau. And if you think about that again, you take three legs, okay, and you put them on the floor. That is the smallest number of legs that you can have on a physical object and still have it stable. Okay, if you don't believe me, test it with 2 legs. Try and stand a ladder up, a 2-legged ladder, up stably with only 2 points of contact. Okay, it's great if you've got the 3rd point and you're leaning against a wall. Okay, but the reality is, if you only try it with 2, it's not as stable. Now, yes, technically you can take a sheet on board or a 2x4, put it on the ground or a broom, and lean it, and it will be stable. Okay, and technically that's only 2 points. Until you realize you're leaning it against the wall, and the wall connects to the ground, so all of a sudden you've got that 3rd point. Okay, now because of that, when you take a look at those 3, you'll find that things run rather smoothly. If you're a spiritual guide, okay, whether you're a spiritual guide by decision, or because you're running a church or a temple or a coven, okay, if you're talking in terms of fearing whatever, if you're talking in terms of killing off a problem, okay, this is not a positive path. Okay, I mean, we can talk tongue-in-cheek and go, well, certainly it is. Because I'm positive if they're dead, they won't be a problem anymore. But the problem will still exist. Okay, now, ironically, that is how I ended up finding out about that problematic thing is how I ended up discovering what I was doing wrong financially. I got a lump sum of money in, cleared off all my debts, but did not correct the thinking process. Okay, by the time I corrected the thinking process, I was in a mess. Okay, however, on the plus side, things are turning around the other direction at this point. Okay, I now know what I did wrong, and I now am correcting it. I put an absolute, kink in what I was spending, and I've gotten really focused on what I desire to accomplish. And frankly, every tool I'm talking about, if it applies to me, I'm using it, and virtually every one of them is transferable to you. So if you're having trouble getting focused on something, drop me a line. I'll be more than happy to try and help you sort it out. And that's in your personal life, in your business life, your spiritual life. If you're dealing with problems with UFOs or aliens, if you're dealing with hauntings, all of these things are all weird and wonderful parts of my own world. Okay, now I don't profess to be perfect. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you right off, I'm not. Okay, that's just not the way things work. Now, with that in mind, I keep these videos to a half-hour run. Okay, because I don't know about you, but myself, I don't have a whole lot of time. I really only have 24 hours a day. And I'm usually on the go way too much for my own good in a lot of ways. But with that in mind, I'm going to call in and bring this one to a close. So I do hope that I see you again tomorrow. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. And remember to hit that alert bell to let you know when the next one comes out. Because I will be putting another one out tomorrow. But until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.